So as you've just seen in the title of the video, I am basically going to open a random video of a random guy who is absolutely atheist and see what he's got. Like, I'm gonna see their perspective. And even if you are atheist, like, just watch, because what's the problem? Yeah. And I'm basically gonna react to that. I'm not just gonna put a video and whatever. Like, of course, I'm gonna make some huge impact by just sitting in here and yapping. I am literally gonna type something like, let's see, the proof of the existence of God. As simple as that. Yeah, the video is so special. Let's see. 6 proofs for God's existence. Proof of God for God. Wow, interesting. Prove God exists using 3 simple arguments. Okay, I just want something simple here.
The question of whether or not God exists is a common question that many people ask. And the existence of God is one that is heavily debated between believers in a higher power and skeptics and atheists. And many times people who don't believe in God will ask for hard evidence for his existence.
He's basically talking about me, but let's see.
And they'll challenge Christians and tell them, show me proof and I'll believe. And to be honest, Christians can't give hard evidence that God does exist.
Yeah, that's actually true, but that's not the only argument of atheists, or the only idea, but it's one of them, but not the most important.
However, just because believers can't show God physically, it doesn't mean there aren't any good reasons to believe in God. So in this video, I want to cover 3 reasons why people can believe in God. However, I should mention that these arguments should not be abused. For example, many people can enter into a debate of sorts and have the mentality to win and will refuse to listen to the other person and will only look for moments to make the other person look stupid for their lack of knowledge.
Yes, so I'm basically gonna try to avoid doing that. Thank you for this remark.
Even now as I write, I know many people will watch this video with the mentality to prove all these reasons for God's existence wrong. And they'll show it in the comments. And that's honestly fine. But know that if you're a Christian, know that these 3 arguments that I'm about to cover are meant to promote discussion and to get people to consider that God may actually exist. So should
we are gonna discuss.
you use them, be humble about it. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching our videos, and if you haven't already, please don't a little. So if you'd like one, or if you'd like to subscribe,
Unfortunately, today's
you can click the link in the description below.
We'll get back to the video in just a sec. First, have you ever read
Argument number 1, the creation argument. This argument is also known as the cosmological argument. And while I could go through the argument in detail, where I go through each premise, I think it's better to explain it in a way that you can use it in a conversation. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, that's fine. All you need to know is that I'm going to break down this argument simply because you don't really need to know the premises unless you're in an actual debate. So the creation argument essentially states that everything that begins to exist must have a reason for its existence. So
I hope this isn't literally one of the 3 major arguments.
since that's the case, we as people should also have a reason for our existence. So this is the way it works. Everything that we see has a cause for its existence. For example, we can look at a building and we can safely assume that there were architects and construction workers that were responsible for making it. On top of that, paintings come from artists, dishes come from chefs, and forests come from seeds, and mountains come from the Earth's tectonic plates moving. So the idea is that all that we see needed to have some kind of cause, and our universe isn't any different. According to science, our universe is expanding, and if it's continuously expanding, then if we were to rewind time, there had to have been a point in which everything started. So the question is, how did everything begin? And the answer to this question is still a mystery in science because we obviously can't go back and observe how life actually began. So
I don't want to interrupt him, I just want him to finish what he's saying so I can respond to the whole thing, because we gotta give him a chance.
creation argument pretty much states that because things exist, things like the universe and its galaxies, stars and planets, and the Earth with its land, seas, and people, then something or someone had to be responsible for its existence.
Okay, just tell me how, like, how? Okay, I'm just talking to myself because I'm literally on my own in this room, but like literally, like, yeah, we do know that many things, like most of the things, if not like, yeah, have a cause for their existence, but like that only proves that they have a cause for their existence. Like, that's the whole point, that's the whole idea. Like, I am going to... So, basically what's said in this video, like, in this part of the video, like, the core argument is that what we know, like, let's say this is what we know, and I don't know how to... Even this is a mouse, like... So, anyways, all the things that we know, he said that, even though that's not right, but even like most of the things, let's say, that we know do have a cause to exist. Like me, I existed because my mom got pregnant, and you know the cause of that and everything. So what if that was just an example, like or like he said, the seeds and like how plants come and things like that. So yeah, this is understandable. This is rational to say that these things, or most of the things, have causes. And actually, that does not prove that something out of here or out of this level, let's say this is the first level, the second level is literally the universe. The universe itself, like the universe is the product that is caused, like the product of the merge of everything that we do know. Many people do include metaphysical things. What I mean is, this is actually a logical fallacy. Like, to prove that the universe had a cause, instead of talking about the universe itself and how it got a cause, like he did talk about the seeds and how I did talk about my own self, he didn't talk about the universe. That's my point. He said other things do have like causes and reasons and all of that to exist. So therefore, because we don't know and we aren't sure of anything existing without a cause to begin with, the universe must be like the other things that we know. You see? It's like, it's a false analogy, because instead of proving, like, Bob, literally this guy, let's name him Bob, is accused of being a robber. Yeah, is accused of being a robber of this house. David says that Bob is the robber of the house. So, instead of talking about Bob himself and how he did rob the house, he is literally talking about other people. Like, he just said, oh, I know this guy who's named John, and this guy who's named, I don't know, some random name, let's name him X. I'm not Elon Musk, by the way. Okay, so he's just saying that these guys, they are guys, and this is a guy, these guys did rob houses, and in the physique and some random points are similar to Bob, and we do know that these guys did rob houses, so Bob did rob a house. Yeah, I'm not saying this example is 100% like this, but this example is similar to this one. In this example, we did not focus on the main topic or on the main thing that we are trying to prove. We just escaped to talk about other things. Literally, that's what he's done. Yeah, I'm a yapper and I'm not good at examples, not good at drawing anything, but this is my idea.
And while people may argue and say, well, maybe the universe was just always here, to that, I'd say that the universe expanding is proof that our universe isn't infinite, because it all had to start at a single point in history.
So personally, even though science is science and science is holy and everything, I am not sure of science itself. Like, it's the most proven thing, science, as I see, but like, I do not have an idea myself. I don't have the answer of the questions, but I'm just saying that the other answers that people are giving to the question aren't 100% right or correct. That's what I'm trying to say.
Because from what we know and observe from the universe, that's the most logical conclusion we can come to. So if the universe and everything in it seems to have needed a cause or reason to exist, then God or some higher power seems to be the only explanation that makes sense. And I know some...
How?
all had to start at a single point in history. Because
Okay, he is still in this, doing the same thing in here, how everything he said everything did come from a point.
from what we know and observe from the universe, that's the most logical conclusion we can come to.
The most logical conclusion that we could come to, the most one. Like he's talking alternatively, as an alternative, like even if this is actually the most logical conclusion, if something sounds more, let's see. So basically, if two people in a random occasion had to see what this number divided by 3 would be, but using their minds, not the calculator or a phone because it is not available. If the first person said the answer would be 6, which sounds unrealistic, but the second person said that the answer would be, for example, 7,000, this answer is more logical than this. But does this prove that this answer is right?
So if the universe and everything in it seems to have needed a cause or reason to exist, then God or
Focus on the word seems.
some higher power seems to be the only explanation that makes sense. And I know some people will say, you Christians look at the unknown and turn off your minds and credit the unknown to God. At least scientists are out there observing and trying to figure everything out. You know, back when
Yeah, some atheists, or many atheists, say that. I'm not one of them.
I was in college, I sat in one of my friend's classes, and JP Moreland was the professor, and he taught his class something interesting. And he stated that the origin of the universe is outside the realm of science. And the reason why is because science is based on the scientific method, or in other words, it relies solely on us making observations of the world around us. So due to the fact that
JP Moreland, or whatever, literally started his sentence or phrase or whatever by saying the origin of the universe. The origin. Like, he's begging the question because he did not prove that the universe itself has an origin.
solely on us making observations of the world around us. So due to the fact that time, space, and matter all began at a single
My friend, science, the scientific method relies on people who are observing the universe using their, let's say, minds. So, is there any other thing that any person has thought of? Anything. Is there anything that any person did think of in the past or in the present or even in the future? Is there anything outside of this realm of our minds and observation? The person who made this video literally operates based on things that he has observed his entire life.
words, it relies solely on us making observations of the world around us. So due to the fact that time, space, and matter all
What I just said doesn't make what he says wrong, because it's right. But I just included him.
began at a single point in time, a point in time that no one can go back and observe, science then cannot answer the question of how the universe began. So Moreland, the professor, then asserted that the question of how the universe began should actually be answered in the realm of philosophy, not science.
Yeah, when you look at it from another perspective, science somehow relies on philosophy because philosophy is basically like a process like of thinking and like definition of philosophy. Yes, so the study of the nature, causes, or principle of reality, knowledge, or values based on logical reasoning. Okay. And here, the philosophy of Hume, like, this is what I was talking about. A system of thought based on or involving such study. So literally, scientists do somehow, let's say, somehow, rely on philosophy while doing their studies. So you've added nothing to the table.
And I thought that was interesting. For me personally, if someone were to tell me, you're just turning off your mind and crediting the unknown to God, I'd respond, I'm not turning off my mind. I just think that a higher power that is greater than time, space, and matter can only be responsible for creating the universe that we observe today.
What?
My mind? I just think that a higher power that is greater than time, space, and matter can only be responsible for creating the universe that we observe today.
This is this sounds reasonable, but what I'm thinking of is that all the things that he has said in here, in this bubble, he did not prove them. He just stated them, that's all. I don't even know how to react to this because he did not show the reasoning that he's done to reach these ideas of his. So let's just pass it.
Do you have a better explanation on why everything exists today? Because if you do, then I'd love to listen and I'm willing to learn. So if you're watching this and you're someone who does not believe in God, I'd challenge you and ask, how do you think we all came to exist? Because I think there needs to be some explanation on why we all exist, and I think that God creating everything seems the most likely and logical. And if you're a Christian and you're wondering how to use this argument in a conversation, you can simply ask people, where do you think we all came from? And how do you think the universe began? Because it did not just pop into existence, something or someone needed to have caused it.
So this is interesting. So basically, this is like saying that a random guy who's named Bill has found $5. Yeah, money. And his friend, Alan, let's say, was with him. So Bill said that the $5 came from Santa. And Alan said, how do you, like, what the fuck, like, how did Santa give you this money? Like, even who is Santa? And Bill just said, okay, so let's hear your reasoning. How do you think this money came to me? Alan is saying, I don't know, you just found it right here. I genuinely don't know its source. So, this is the method of a theist to prove the existence of God. Just instead of saying how Santa did put the money in here to make Bill gain it, let's shift the burden of proof and ask the following person does he think the money came to me. Yes, so this is, by the way, a logical fallacy. It's named shifting the burden of proof. Like, you are supposed to prove something, but because you can't prove it, you just tell the other person or group or whatever to prove the opposite. Interesting.
And if they argue and say, well, how do we know that? Things can just pop into existence, and that might be the case for the universe. To that, I'd probably say that we don't observe things popping in and out of existence freely in our day-to-day lives. So if that's the case, there needs to be a cause for the existence of our universe.
Yeah, because in our day-to-day life, we don't see things do something, like do whatever this is. The universe can't be created by that thing. I don't personally believe the universe could come like this, like this. It is ridiculous, but from another point, his reasoning is flawed.
And should people ask, well, who created God then? To help with that question, you can watch our video titled, Who Created God? Argument number 2.
Yes, so instead of saying who created God, even though it's a valid question, I would just say, nah, bro, no. Seriously, bro. You came with this claim. Don't be lazy, just prove it yourself. Okay, argument 2, the design argument. I hope this is something new.
This argument is also known as the teleological argument. And in the same way that I skipped explaining the premises for the creation argument, I'll also skip that here. Because the goal for this video isn't to prepare debaters, but to help Christians understand these arguments so that they can better be used in a conversation. So this argument pretty much states that
yeah, Christians, you have to learn from this guy because your life is going to be easier.
Complex and intelligent design must come from an intelligent mind or designer. So let's look at the complexity of people. And I cover this in our Is There Really a God video. And in it, I talk about how within a single person, they have a cardiovascular system, an endocrine system, a digestive, respiratory, excretory, lymphatic, nervous, muscular, and skeletal system. And on top of that, according to the National Institute of General Medical Sciences, the DNA from one of our cells is 6 feet long. So if we were to uncoil all of the DNA from all of our cells, it would amount to being 67 billion miles long. And to give you a better idea of that length, we could take 150,000 round trips to the moon with that much DNA, and that's just the DNA of one person. So the design argument would suggest that a person is too complex, and evolution could not have been the reason why people exist, regardless of how many billions of years occur. For example, it would...
Evolution. Evolution is mentioned.
Is too complex, and evolution could not have been the reason why people exist. For example, it would be nonsense to think that a laptop in a forest got there by evolution. Because even if all the necessary parts of a laptop were in an area, and that area was untouched, and nature just had its way for billions of years, a working laptop would not be the result. Yet many people who believe in evolution use this line of reasoning for people, and they'll suggest that the building blocks for people were in an area, and over time, an organism formed, and from that, it kept evolving until we got to people. And I do want to add that I do find a lot of credibility in evolution within a species. Like Darwin.
Basically, he said evolution, a term that refers to the process of something changing, did not exist, was not the cause of the existence of people and nature and whatever. He's doing the same thing as before. Instead of proving how people did not come from evolution, he basically did prove that laptops did not come from evolution, guys. Laptops did not come from evolution. So therefore, if a laptop can't come from evolution, people can't come from evolution, and nature can't come from evolution.
This line of reasoning for people, and they'll suggest that the billions of years, a working laptop would not be the result. Yet many people who believe in evolution, that area was untouched, and nature just had its way for billions of years, a working laptop would not be the result.
Yes, so you do realize that a laptop not forming because of evolution means that trees and things cannot form and change because of evolution. Even though evolution, like linguistically, evolution is not mainly referring to the cause, it's mainly referring to the process.
Yet many people who believe in evolution use this line of reasoning for people, and they'll suggest that the building blocks for people were in an area, and over time, an organism formed, and from that, it kept evolving until we got to people. And I do want to add that I do find a lot of
He is stating it like before humans did exist, these organs and whatever did exist by their own selves.
credibility in evolution within a species. Like Darwin's finches, for example. Finches do evolve over time, but they don't become anything other than birds. And we do have wolves that mate with lesser violent canines. And evolution can create a bunch of different types of dogs. However, they stay dogs. It's evolution that turns species into other species, like fishes turning into birds and birds turning into dogs, that I would disagree with. And the reason
He is saying that the thing that happened couldn't happen because a thing that did not happen cannot happen, literally. And by the way, according to evolution and science and BS, who are the ancestors of dogs? Even if evolution is all false, is incorrect, is bullshit, is whatever, how does that prove the existence of God? Of God, that being. How does the absence of evolution, even though bullshit, like how could evolution as a term be absent? Evolution as a term could be used to talk about the process of a baby becoming an adult. So even if that's all wrong, okay. Now, are you going to say how the God exists?
do evolve over time, but they don't become anything other than birds. And we do have wolves that mate with lesser violent canines. And evolution can create a bunch of different types of dogs. However, they stay dogs. It's evolution that turns species into other species, like fishes turning into birds and birds turning into dogs.
Yes, so he does believe in evolution, but he does not believe that a species could result in a new one.
That I would disagree with. And the reason why is because in our fossil record, I don't recall seeing much of any transitional species that were in the middle of evolving. So going back to the argument of design.
Yeah, because we don't live in a cartoon, tragically, so you are not going to see a T-Rex or a random dinosaur with chicken legs, for example. That's not how evolution works. You are not capable of realizing the change, the microscopic whatever change that is happening, even though there are many changes that are remarkable. But still, I am not going to explain this because this does not have anything to do with the existence of God. What I'm trying to say is you are basically saying that monkeys or whatever species could not become another complete species because you don't find that logical. So you see something as bizarre, so you don't believe in it.
with. And the reason why is because in our fossil record, I don't recall seeing much of any transitional species that were in the middle of evolving.
Yeah, you did not even, even though all the species are in the middle of evolving, what do you exactly mean by the middle of evolving? Like,
So going back to the argument of design, complex and intelligent design requires a complex designer. So
how? You are basically begging the question. You have to prove that a complex design needs a more complex designer.
when you look at the complexity of people and all that makes up a single person, this kind of complexity had to have come from some higher power. So if you're someone that doesn't believe in God and you think that evolution makes more sense and that people did evolve, I would challenge you to think of a time when life can come from non-life. Or in other words, if evolution did start everything and the world started with a bunch of non-living things that people ultimately evolved from, can you think of another time when life was able to emerge from something that wasn't alive? Because if that's not the case, then where did life begin? You could say you just don't know, but I think that the most logical explanation is life coming from some originator of life. And I would call this originator of life God. And if you're a Christian and you're wondering how you can use this argument in a conversation, I would encourage you to ask a lot of questions on what someone believes regarding the complexity of life. And
Holy.
I'd say something along the lines of, people are incredibly complex. Where do you think we came from, and how do you think life started? In my personal podcast, Practical Christianity, I interviewed my friend who works as a chemist, and I asked him what his view on evolution was. And he told me that as a chemist, he works hard to make sure that the chemicals he creates all have the correct measurements. So if his chemicals and complex compounds that he makes all require intelligence, he thinks that since the world and people have so much more complexity than the chemicals he makes, it only makes sense that a mind of greater intelligence is responsible for creating it. And argument.
When you talk about let's ask the non-theist one, what does he think and how could something come from nothing? That's still shifting the burden of proof, or like talking alternatively, or like saying that since you don't know, let's put my God in the gap. But yeah, this argument is the important argument here. So basically, you said that since this guy, your friend, the chemist, focuses and precisely and meticulously works on making precise measurements and everything, so everything goes fine. He thinks that everything that is in here and in the universe, since is complex, must be made the same way. But why don't you just show us how this happened, how this God of yours measure and do whatever he does? Why instead of proving this, you talk about this? This guy is coming from the theist side from the beginning, so he is not proving anything. He is explaining how things work. He is begging the question in a way he has a base that could not be touched, and it's basically like we do know that this is happening, so to explain that the designer did design these complex things on Earth, I am gonna show you the example of my friend, the chemist.
And argument number 3, the moral argument. This argument pretty much states that because people have universal laws that they all abide by, it's evidence of God, because he had to.
That's not true. Literally, I've been scrolling on Instagram the other day and saw a reel, like this is an example I'm showing, saying that, okay, let's search for the thing so it comes legitimately. What does German law think of, yeah, I don't know how to phrase phrases and texts and shit. Think of prison escape. Under German law, prison escapes are generally not punishable, whatever, as the legal system recognizes the nature urge for freedom of inmates. However, if the escape involves additional crimes such as property damage or violence, those actions can be prosecuted. So basically, escaping from prison is not the crime itself. Like, if you escape in a clean way, it would pass fine. But if you damage a guard or the prison bars or anything, like if you do another crime, not escaping part itself, that would be a problem. But if you just escape from prison, that's your right. You are not punished. That's it. You are free. So, by showing this example, I am addressing that there ain't a universal law.
To explain it more, murdering babies, purposefully polluting water reservoirs, and other crimes like rape are wrong, because he had to give people these laws. This argument pretty much states that because people have universal laws that they all abide by, it's evidence of God, because he had to.
So you think that God did give the universal law? You must know what the word universal means. Because if some kind of alien hears this sentence or paragraph or whatever, he would think that literally everybody follows the same law, which is not true. Not all people are Christians, not all of them are Muslims, not all of them are atheists or agnostics or whatever. The law is diverse. It is not given from a single two hands or whatever.
Give people these laws. To explain it more, murdering babies, purposefully polluting water reservoirs, and other crimes like rape are wrong. And while that seems obvious that they're wrong, the question is, why do we think they're wrong? The moral argument suggests that these moral laws can't develop from a.
But of course, it's right that all of these things generally are recognized as wrong by law in almost every place in the world.
The moral argument suggests that these moral laws can't develop from a purely biological world, and that these morals need to come from a higher power or God. And the reason why is because if there was no God and we were purely biological beings, then we'd be no different than animals. Because lions can kill gazelles, and dogs can go have sex with other dogs without their consent, but lions don't murder gazelles, and dogs don't rape other dogs. They're just acting like animals. So to really think about this argument, we need to consider why we as people think that things are wrong.
You do think that these things are wrong. You are basically begging the question that you asked in the first part of the video, the very first part. Like, if some random guy, an atheist one, says, oh, right, I must believe in God because God gave us law that ends the suffering, and we all think that raping and shit is wrong. After this guy becoming, for example, a Christian, what would he think when getting put in front of an incident or an accident or whatever where a guy is killing a baby or raping someone? Like, these things still do happen. So by this argument, you are saying that a God must exist to prevent these things from happening, even though these things are happening.
Because if we truly did believe that our world was purely biological, then we couldn't say that what Hitler did was wrong. And according to the Holocaust Encyclopedia, Nazi Germany did not just kill Jewish people. They also killed black people, gay men, people with disabilities.
Even if they just killed normal people, it would be wrong in the eyes of an atheist guy like me.
And their political opponents. So think about this. If morals were not given to us by God, then the rules we have as a society would be subjective. Meaning, what's wrong for me.
The rules are already subjective, my friend, just like in this example of like escaping prison.
May not be wrong for other people, and we could then respectfully disagree. But
like let's say the Christian God Jesus or whatever actually exists. This God did allow another or like multiple other gods, like the Islamic god Allah, to give a holy book or like the holy word of Islam to give different rules, because the rules of Islam and Christianity are different in many points. So why did this God create the universe while being, let's say, omnipotent and omniscient and whatever, because that's what they say, give the ability to other gods to give the ability to the creatures to create other gods that would give other rules. This is if I do even exclude the political figures who do pass many different other laws that contradict Christianity.
This moral argument suggests that there are things that we can't respectfully disagree with. Like, we can't respectfully disagree with Hitler. What he did was morally wrong. But if we lived in a purely biological world, I'd argue that we couldn't say that he was wrong, because he was just doing what was right for him. And people could argue that objective moral values could emerge
That was not right for him. Germany literally lost the war.
from a society, but if objective moral values did begin within a society, how would we know which moral values to defend? Because different moral values could technically arise that contradict other ones.
This already happens, my friend.
So how do we know rape is wrong? And if it is wrong, then how do we know it should stay wrong? I don't think the idea of objective moral values developing within a society answers this question. So all that to say, the moral argument states that because we have moral values that all our societies hold, values such as not murdering and raping people, it's indicative of some higher being giving us those values. So if you don't believe in God, I would challenge you to think of where your conscience came from. Like, you have a sense of right and wrong. So where did that come from?
Since I am an atheist, let's answer the question. I basically don't believe that my sense of right or wrong is correct. Like, I do believe in many things that contradict other beliefs of other conscious beings who are people, so we are different. So if I talk on this topic, your topic of the existence of God morally, God did create two people who believe in different things. Because God is the thing, if it exists, of course, God is the thing that supposedly created the rapist. I think you see what I mean. But yeah, I don't use myself as an omniscient guy who knows what's right and what's wrong. And I see that it's wrong to believe that you have the perfect sense. You could be wrong, and it's totally fine.
And why is it that humans are different from animals, and why can't we just kill and have sex with whoever we want to? Because I think that the best explanation for why we have this innate sense of right and wrong is because God put inside all of us a conscience that sees and holds universal and moral laws. And if you're a Christian and you want to use this argument in a conversation, I would encourage you to ask questions like, where do you think we got our sense of right and wrong? And do you think what Hitler did was wrong? And why do you think that? And do you think it's possible that we got our sense of right and wrong from God? And if not, why do you think that? And how did you come to that conclusion?
When we talk about my sense of right or wrong, I basically do not have that sense of right or wrong because I'm not omniscient. I don't have knowledge, and even I don't know where the thing that doesn't even exist came from. And why, I already told you why. And in the matter of Hitler, it is supposedly very bad. The effect of Hitler is tremendously bad. But I was not present in that moment of history, and I did not read every detail about the story of the war and the life of Hitler. Personally, I don't want, even if not innocent, I don't want them being burned in whatever furnace or whatever they say. So, and God, I don't know what God has to do with all of that. And for why, I basically don't know. So, you are expecting to talk to somebody who believes that he knows what's right and what's wrong, and like, yeah, of course I do think killing somebody and harming him is wrong, and trying to make people happy is right, but I don't know all the circumstances and all the cases and all the effects that could happen, like outcomes and shit. So I still don't have the perfect answer, like, to what's right and what's wrong.
Okay? So if you're wondering if God does exist, I would encourage you to consider these three arguments: the creation argument, the design argument, and the moral argument. Now, I should mention that these arguments do not argue the existence of the Christian God. I'll actually cover those arguments in another
Great.
video. But if anything, these arguments provide a good start when it comes to conversing with people about the possibility
Okay, so basically now he's not in the argument, so let's go back to the argument.
and the moral.
He talks about the creation argument when he said that almost everything, he did not say almost, I don't know, like everything that he knows as a person, the content creator, did come from another thing. So therefore the universe must come from another thing. And basically, instead of talking about how things like seeds and me, myself, and created things have causes, talk about the universe itself, please. And I remember him saying that Christians or theists should ask the atheists what's their alternative, like from where did the universe come? Even though, first of all, he did not prove that the universe has come from something, and second of all, my guy, please, I want you to prove your point instead of demanding me to get you some answers. Like, I would not be saying, what do you think the color of the sky is? Or what do you think I could be? Because those are facts. If the God was a fact, you would not necessarily need to do such thing. And for the design argument, you basically kept begging the question. You offended evolution more than defending the God. Because, yeah, I did not read a damn about evolution. And if evolution is wrong, which I don't understand, because evolution is supposed to be a description for a process that we all know, how does your friend, the chemist one, if you remember, creating like chemicals with precise measurements, mean that a holy god, or whomever, must be a great designer who makes great measurements to create the globe? I mean, the planet or the universe. How? And when talking about the moral argument, you are just saying that we do have sense of right or wrong, while we as people or as humans contradict ourselves in that point, because we do not have the same sense of right and wrong. But I do think that this guy is very kind. Yeah, he was very kind in his video, and the point he has suggested were interested. Like, yeah, we've heard about them a lot, but still kinda worth yapping about.
Also, I wanted to give a huge shout out to the team listed below. Their hard work makes our ministry possible.
Yes, so basically this is the video. I basically watched a video of a person to yap about, because I'm lazy, I don't want to edit, I don't want to do anything. It's just, this is how they prove their God.